local sports scene in Windsor and Essex County is a hidden gem that not too many people know about. One man on a mission to ensure that the Rose City has a premium platform to showcase their athletic diversity. Well, that's easy. It's Brett Hedges. If you need a local authority on anything relating to the Windsor and Essex sports scene, Hedges is your guy. Whether he is calling local college sports games, hosting his That Sports Show television program, his own podcast, or simply being an ambassador for the region, it's fair to assume that he is doing all he can to put Windsor and Essex sports on the map. He took some time out of his busy schedule to join me this week to talk to me about how the Windsor and Essex sports scene can become more diversified and noticed by the masses. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. We began our time together by discussing and exploring just what a hidden gem the sports scene in Windsor and Essex truly is.
So Windsor, we have a unique position in Canada where we're right between Detroit and Toronto. So we have a really good mix of Americans pro sports and Toronto and Canadian based sports. And I feel like we have a really good mix of those two things here. We're a small city that has a lot to offer in terms of sports. Like we have really good college teams, we have really good university teams, and I feel like just the mix of people that make up our region, there's almost 500,000 people between Windsor, Essex, and Leamington, Chatham, Kent. We just have a really good mix of people here that make a really exciting product, and they really appreciate kind of hard work that goes into the basis of sport, and everyone really kind of buys into that, and we always support each other too. So
Yeah, absolutely. And our local sports market here, but it focuses a lot on the Windsor Spitfires for sure. But I'm also curious to ask you, how do you think we get more people excited about our local brand of sports? I'm curious.
how do we get more people? I think it's a grassroots kind of thing. We need to get more children involved. Like we do as well as we can in terms of the adult population. The way that I try and like tell people like about Windsor sports is like I feel like 10% of the people in the city are sports fans, like hardcore sports fans, and maybe like 10%, like 20% of those people actually come out to games, right? And to get people more involved in our Windsor sports scene in general, I really think we need to put a big emphasis on youth programs, 5 and up, to try and get them to kind of understand the value of sport, and just kind of reiterate the fact that not everyone's going to go pro or everyone's not going to make a big living out of sport, but you can get a lot out of it. And even from the lowest levels to the highest levels, you're still going to get a great kind of life lesson out of the way of sport there.
And buddy, I'm curious to ask you, do you consider yourself sort of the ambassador of our local sports scene, buddy? Because I know when you work in the space, you talk to a lot of our local movers and shakers in our local sports arena. So I'm wondering if you consider yourself at all like an ambassador for this region when it comes to sports.
I don't know. I would say, yeah, for sure. I definitely bear the torch when it comes to Windsor. Like I try and prop up my city as best as I can in every way that I can. I've been involved in sports for a very long time, so that's just how I've been able to make my mark. In TV itself, like it's kind of a lonely experience, you know, trying to do something one on one. So it's really hard to kind of quantify like the amount of people that actually watch your show because I don't have that kind of demo. I don't have that capability of knowing how many people actually watch our show, like as opposed to something that's online or a podcast, something that you download. So like it's really hard for me to say if I'm an ambassador because I don't know how many people truly watch. But I like to say that I'm among some of the biggest sports ambassadors in the city, like in terms of local media and like community television. Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that I'm among one of the ambassadors for the sports scene for sure.
Hedges says that there's something for everyone when it comes to the diversity of the Windsor and Essex sports scene.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of really cool experiences that you can go see. Like if you're into um, basketball or like the Windsor Express itself, it's a hidden gem. Being able to have a professional basketball team in the area itself is a lot of fun. But I really like seeing some of the smaller like junior B kind of style sports. Like I'm a really big Windsor Clippers fan personally. I really like going to watch lacrosse because that's something that I've really enjoyed growing up. Some of my friends really enjoyed growing up. I really think that going out to Forest Glade in the middle of the summer and having a fun time with like your family or your friends just watching a lacrosse game, that's a really fun time. And honestly, our soccer programs at the University of Windsor and at St. Clair have gotten a lot better over the years. And the competition itself is really fun to watch. I do the University of Windsor soccer program. I do their play-by-play for the first time this year, and I did that. That was a lot of fun, and just seeing the community that supports soccer players in this area, that was really fun for me because I hadn't really been a part of the soccer program since I wrote at the University of Windsor when I was their editor at the newspaper there. But I really enjoy that. So if out of the, we're a big hockey town, but if you're looking for something else to go see, I would definitely go see one of our local soccer programs, maybe the Windsor Clippers, or of course the Windsor Express too.
And how do you think our local sports teams can better market themselves to get more people interested in what they have to offer?
It's difficult because if you're a fan of say a local sport, say like you play junior B lacrosse, Windsor Clippers, it's really hard for then anyone that's not related to that player or a friend of that player or somehow loosely associated with that player to draw fans, right? It's hard to draw casual fans to sports that people don't have family or friends playing in, right? So I think a lot for the most part, I think our programs in the city do a really good job of promoting themselves. But if they were going to take the next step, I think it would probably have to be like digital marketing, that kind of thing, like utilizing social media ads or maybe newsletters or an email list or something like that, or maybe even doing like a local like a raffle that would get more people to know what your organization's name is and just kind of understand what they offer to people in the community because for a large part of it like uh, people just don't know people don't know that we have really high quality sports that are playing in our backyards literally 3 4 5 times a week, right? We've got two AAA hockey programs that play within 20 minutes of each other. One is in Essex and one's in Windsor at Central Park Athletics there, right? So there's a lot of local teams and a lot of different sports that people can support, but it's just sometimes it's just a little bit hard. There's a little bit of a barrier there that they're not reaching yet.
Throughout all of his prominent experiences in the Windsor and Essex sports scene, Hedges recalls an experience which allowed him to interview one of Canada's hockey broadcasting legends.
A few years ago, I think it was 2017. I got to interview Ron McLean. He was the host of Hockey Night in Canada. He was a host of Coach's Corner with Don Cherry for CBC for a very long time. I got to interview him when he was in town for the hometown hockey tour because they were just down by the riverfront. And somehow sometimes you trade favors with people, and it ends up working out that we were able to shave out 15-20 minutes of time with Ron McLean, one of the most legendary people that have inspired a lot of people to become broadcasters, or everyone knows who Ron McLean is. They watch him once a weekend, at least on Saturdays, have been for the last 30, 40, even 50 years. So he was really someone that I was really excited to interview. I got the chance to interview him in his bus in the set, in the bus that where they do their show, and it was easy to be intimidated in that moment. And at the end of the day, you just want to have a conversation with someone that you really respect. So that was a lot of fun. There was a couple little fumbles that I made, but I feel for the most part I did my job well, and he came out of it pretty well. He enjoyed his time with me. So
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. And one of the other questions I had for you is, being as connected as you are in our local sports team here, buddy, I'm wondering what advantages do you think that Windsor has being on an international border when it comes to promoting their own sports and also having the ability to have access to all four major Detroit sports teams too?
oh, it's absolutely vital. Like if we when with having the border shut down to us was completely shut down a big avenue for a lot of our sports teams to go over to the states to go play there and get a lot of experience doing other things. But it really kept a lot of American programs from coming into Canada at all and spending that money in our facilities and helping us build our programs through just participation. Like for example, the pool downtown, the international size pool there, they have diving competitions and swimming competitions all year round. And lots of people come in from the States and they go there and they go train and they spend time in that pool because it is a very high quality facility. Being able to get in position to be able to, invite American programs and being able to go participate in American programs is a huge part of what we do. Um, in terms of the Big Four, I think that Canadian people stimulate a lot of their economy as well. Those Big Four teams, excuse me, because we spend a lot of money over there, whether it's tolls, whether it's um, jerseys, whether it's drinks, whether it's food, whether it's tickets. Like we spend a lot of money just to go over there and have a good time. So I think being able to open these borders back up when these restrictions are fully lifted is going to be really big, and it's going to be able to sustain some normalcy now that everything's lifting up now.
Yeah, and going forward to next year, about when we have high school sports back in full swing, I'm curious to ask you about the impact you think that's going to have on our local sports scene, because I truly believe that sports are a bonding agent not only for like competitive athleticism, but also the social aspects that sports bring us. So tell me about having a full high school and elementary slate again, and what do you think that means, buddy?
Personally, I think that elementary school kids and high school kids have suffered the most out of anyone from these lockdowns, right? So being able to, the reason why you and I know each other, Kevin, is because of high school sports. You and your brother being around the Massey track program and basketball programs and things like that. Like that's exactly why you and I know each other. Like those lifelong bonds that you meet just by having something in common with someone is is a huge part of someone's development. Whether it's from someone from say LaSalle meeting someone from Cottam, they know in by competing you can form bonds that are lifelong lasting. Like I see people all the time around the city when I go, oh, I played high school sports against him, or I did this with him at this time, right? So it's a really key. It's a key life experience for these kids to be able to participate in something, whether it's badminton, track, whatever. It's something. Get them involved in something. Get them to meet other people and bond with them, and form those life bonds there.
Hey, Brett, anybody who may be watching this who would want to go into sports journalism as a career, what do you think your best pieces of advice would be uh, to make sure that they have a success when they enter the industry?
Be right. Don't be first. You have to make sure that you get everything right before you publish things. Right? It's easy garbage and just say that you were the first person to do it, therefore you thought that it was right. It's just not how it's going to work. You have to, cross your T's, dot your I's, and really respect the process that is journalism. Because even if it's a couple keystrokes of a difference in a word or a sentence or a quote, it can mean the difference in the meaning of what you're trying to portray, and it can mean a lot to the credibility that you build throughout a career. Right? Like we're all going to make mistakes. That's what happens. But careless mistakes, not caring that you make mistakes, that's a big issue with me. So if anyone's going to go into sports journalism, no. Unfortunately, you're not going to make a lot of money to start off. You're not going to. It's going to be very difficult to try and kick your way through the door. It's hard to make contacts. It's hard to get FaceTime with certain people, but you have to go. You have to be there, and it's about attrition. It's about showing up. It's about being professional. It's about asking the right questions. It's about not making it about yourself. It's about the story, right? So, if I was to give anyone some advice, I'd say make sure that you get your facts right before you publish the story.
Well, that always helps, doesn't it? And,
Yeah, exactly.
and I always say that nothing in life worth having is always easy, right? You always have to put some elbow grease into something you really, really want, right?
Absolutely. I'll give you a quick story. When I first got into the journalism industry, like I went to St. Clair College, I went to the Mediaplex downtown. Veronique was one of my teachers there. I graduated, and with about 4 or 5 months, I ended up getting a job at the University of Windsor's newspaper as their sports editor, right? And then, so everything's going fantastic, everything's going great. I'm writing a bunch every week. I'm working at another job to do that, to be able to, uh, supplement that income. And then all of a sudden, I get offered to do the sports show at Coachco, which is now Your TV. And so at the time, it's like I've got these two jobs, but I have this awesome opportunity where I can go and do a sports show every week, and I can't pass that up. So whatever you're gonna have to do to make it work, just gonna have to make it work, right? If you want to make your dreams happen, you're gonna have to make it work. You're gonna have to miss some sleep. You're gonna have to miss some parties. You're gonna have to miss some, birthdays and stuff. But you'll be able to. You got to tell the stories to be able to get on air, and to be able to get on air is a big privilege. So it's a big thing, and I didn't take it for granted. And 7, 8 years later, here we are.
Embrace the grind, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So obviously, I didn't keep the newspaper job for too long. Obviously, other jobs come and go, but keeping my contacts and keeping my foot in the door at Your TV Windsor has been a big part of my success here for sure.
Yeah, and since you brought it up, I'm curious to ask you about the future of print journalism because especially in sports, everything is digital now. So where do you think the future of print journalism is going when it comes to sports, buddy?
Doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. Um, Being like a sports columnist or being a hardcore sports reporter for a big time newspaper is almost like being a unicorn nowadays, right? I'm sure you can understand that. You don't find too many of them, and if you do, they usually had to make their own kind of niche to get that kind of uh, role. Print journalism, I think, is where obviously where the basis of the industry is. Um, but it's it's unfortunately dying, right? The printing of newspapers just isn't feasible as much as it used to be, right? We see the Windsor Star nowadays. We usually have maybe one or two pages of local sports, and it's a national thing. So
Yeah, again, representation and coverage matters, but and you know, uh, for our city, our local news is sort of uh, gone away from covering local sports. Like they found a different way of presenting sports, but they don't really focus on the locals as much. So I'm
yeah,
curious to ask you about how do you think that's been a detriment to our local sports scene, and how do we recover from that?
it's been a big time deficit for sure. Well, like basically the reason why the program at your TV was started almost, it was probably a decade ago by James Murray, was because there was such a lack of local reporting going on. Like, there's only one main media outlet, right, that does local reporting, and that's the Windsor Star. But other things like CTV and CBC started cutting their coverage, so we thought that we would take up that torch, right, and try and cover the local sports scene. The second part of the question, how do we get it back? Like, I don't know. Like, we've been trying to do as much as we can from the local TV segment to try, promote our local sports as best as we can. But that's a big question that everyone in the industry is gonna have to ask themselves: how do we better serve our local communities? How do we serve our grassroots sports? And uh, yeah, whether it's maybe newsletters, maybe local newsletters, maybe neighborhood newsletters about what local sports are going on, maybe like small time local newspapers. Maybe we just got to put more foot to the ground, talking about how we can support these local teams, because a lot of them have had to shutter their doors based on because of the pandemic, right? So hopefully we can find some innovative ways to promote local sports again.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brett, my final question for you has to do with the future of our Windsor Essex sports team and how you forecast the future, buddy. I'm curious.
Um, from what I've seen from the local, like, I think uh, the biggest role models that we're going to have in the area, and the most role models we're going to have, are going to come out of the University of Windsor and St. Clair College. They have the most sports teams that are there, and I feel like, if as long as those programs are really committed to the basis and committed to supporting local sport, it's going to build from there. If we can get some more local kids programs out of those two facilities, or maybe just kind of birth the idea that we can have a hierarchy of organizations that we want to strive to send our kids to eventually, I feel like we're gonna have a really strong program in whatever sports that we invest in. If you look at our baseball programs, they always do very well on the provincial and national level, and I feel like across the board we are just going to we're going to excel. We just need to put in that effort. That's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brett, tell me finally if people want to get connected with you and all the great work that you do, buddy, what's the best way they can do that?
I'm on Twitter at Under the Hedges, at UNDERTHEHEDES. That's on Twitter. You can watch me on Your TV Windsor. I have that sports show. We haven't filmed any new shows in a little while because of the pandemic, but we're looking forward to getting back to that soon. Last summer, I did a show park where I did barbecue at 5 different parks in 10 episodes. Just trying to spread my wings a little bit. So you might see me on there. That's barbecue in the park. That's on Your TV Windsor. I did. I've been in the podcasting game before, so if you Google me there, you might be able to find some stuff that I did talking about the local area and kind of the wild, wicked, and weird stories that go along there. And I've actually been working for St. Clair College for a little bit in their news department, writing some stories about local people and some of their students and what they're doing and some kind of the groundbreaking stuff they're doing at the college as well. So I also spend some time volunteering at the university. So if you're watching OUA TV, if you're on stClairCollege.ca, if you go check out their news source, if you're on Your TV Windsor, you can see me there. And if you like podcasts, you can check out Wild, Wicked, and Weird on podcast as well. So.
Well, Brett, I have to tell you that I've been looking forward to reuniting, buddy, and I want to thank you for spending a few minutes with me talking about local sports here in Windsor and Essex County. Great to see you as always, and thank you for a few minutes, buddy.
No problem, man. Thank you for letting us have this conversation. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to it, one time in the future.